Team Media.
Welcome to the DGD Podcast.
Juan Daniels, touchdown, Georgia.
This is your favorite receiver, Juan Daniels, and you're listening to the DGD Podcast with my man, Robert Reynolds. Go Dogs!
Welcome back to the DGD Podcast. As always, the NC DGD himself, Robert Reynolds. The season is upon us, and as promised, special co-host for this season, guys, Juan Daniels is here. Juan, welcome as a co-host of the DGD Podcast.
Dude, I'm so excited, man. Football is here, but even more so, Georgia football is here. So who can't be excited about Georgia football?
I mean, Florida fans, Tennessee fans, right?
I think they're still secretly excited about Georgia football.
I think so. Rent-free is the key word there, as the young people say. Hey, so look, obviously, it's been a long off season. Obviously looking into the beginning of the year, right, where we finished off actual win come from behind Cincinnati. So that gave us something on New Year's Day to look forward to. Obviously, like I said, long off season, and now that has culminated to 2 days, and then you will see Georgia facing Clemson in Charlotte. First off, if for those that don't know, Juan did play for Georgia. And you played against Clemson for that. With that being said, so my first question to you as a co-host here, what is it like prepping for a game like Clemson?
Well, at the time, Clemson was actually pretty good. They had some pretty good players, but just that rivalry. They're right up the road. They're about 2 hours away, and they take a lot of pride. And when it just comes to South Carolina, the state of South Carolina. The state of Georgia actually just putting on those pads and really smacking each other. It's pretty intense. My sophomore year, we beat them pretty bad. We beat them, I think it was like 40-13. But that next year was very close. It was like 24-19 at Clemson. So playing Clemson at Clemson was pretty tough. So I can imagine going up to Charlotte. It's probably going to be a Clemson type atmosphere. However, I think that we're going to be able to strap it on and we're going to be ready to go.
Absolutely. Looking into it right here, I'm so excited, right? Because I think, everybody knows Georgia Tech, right? Everybody looks at Georgia versus Georgia Tech. You have the traditionalists, right, that value that rivalry. Obviously, being in-state so close, that's fair. But then you look at other people, other Georgia fans that kind of want a bigger rivalry, right? Like Clemson is our rival as well. People have been wanting to see more, Clemson games. Now, obviously, you said you played Clemson a few times before. Now, do you prefer home and homes, or do you prefer a neutral site game like we're seeing September 4th?
I mean, I prefer home and home because there's nothing like playing, especially a top-ranked team. Like, how awesome would that be? Both of them in the top 5 to have this team in Sanford Stadium. That'd be great. Also, too, just to get that experience. Having the opportunity to play at Clemson, I'll be honest, seeing those Tigers jumping up and down the field and then running down, touching Howard's Rock, running down that hill, it sends electricity, through your veins. And so it's just always nice to see just a different type of an atmosphere, but even more so, hey, let's go out there, let's beat Clemson at Clemson. So we were able to do that. That was pretty cool.
Looking at your history with Clemson, right? You fared fairly well, and then obviously after that, the last time Georgia and Clemson faced off was the 2013-2014 series, and with that right there, obviously we split the series. Clemson winning at home, and then Georgia coming and winning at home in 2014. So right now, Georgia has that leg up in regards to the rivalry, but Clemson has one upped Georgia in regards to national titles. So obviously with this year, I'm sure you're more than versed in this, and the media saying that this is Georgia's year, right? Obviously, I think this is a must-win game for Georgia. Do you think that if Georgia can come in and handle business, does that mean that Georgia has the foot on the gas pedal heading towards the national title run?
Oh, 100%. This is a top 5 game, so it's not like Clemson is ranked 23 or they're barely in the top, in ranked. I mean, they're in the top 5. So for Georgia, this is a statement game. This is a statement to everybody else. Hey, But years before, the talk was there, but right now it's more about talking about it. It's going to be about being about it. And I think that this will be a huge statement win. It's going to put everybody else on notice, and it's going to be our time.
Obviously looking into it, right? The schedule is kind of down for Georgia this year. So I think with that being said, everybody wants to look at the SEC gauntlet, and that's fair. But really, when you look at the East is pretty down, and the gap between Georgia and the rest of the East is significantly widened for this year specifically.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. So what I was saying, just to kind of continue though, obviously, I think this is a must-win game for Georgia more so than Clemson. And I know Clemson, if they lose this game, they have no margin for error in the ACC. But I think if Georgia loses this game Saturday, I think, what lies ahead in Atlanta is more daunting than the Clemson game. And I'm not knocking Clemson by any means, but, people can say what they want about Alabama. Even losing Mac Jones and Waddle and Devontae Smith, that does not matter, because until proven otherwise, Nick Saban is just going to reload with elite teams year in and year out. And you saw what happened when Tua left, right? Just an example. Tua leaves, Mac Jones comes in, and they have an even better year. So, looking into that right there, I would much rather beat Clemson and then, have the luxury of, if I lose, I can still make the playoffs, more so than lose Clemson and then you have to do it. It's the familiar situation for Georgia fans, right? We always slip up somehow, and then you're forced to win in Atlanta, but we haven't done that yet. So, like I said, I would much rather think that it's a must-win game for Georgia. But your thoughts on who do you think it would be a bigger game for in regards to their playoff hopes, Clemson or Georgia?
Well, it's definitely going to be for Clemson. I mean, Clemson's going to have a tough road unless you have a UNC team that lives up to the hype of having that quarterback. And if they can go out there and perform well and beat other teams, then that'll be a statement win for Clemson if they can actually topple UNC, depending on how well they do. Outside of that, I mean, it's going to be very, very tough. The committee is going to have to look at it and say, hey, listen, you don't have enough dogs in the fight right here for us to catapult you over maybe an Oklahoma who may go out there and go undefeated, or Ohio State. So they're going to be the ones that are going to be on the outside looking in. Even if Georgia were to go and slip up against an Alabama team in the SEC championship, it's almost kind of hard not to put Georgia right back in there in that top four.
I completely agree with that situation. And the reason why I say that is because we had this situation happen in 2018 where Georgia, in my opinion, was a legitimate top four team, but got sent out because of the loss in the SEC title game. And that's where I think my point comes back in earlier. I would much rather beat Clemson and then can afford another loss in the SEC championship game and still make my, decide my fate that way. Because look, it's just been our Achilles heel so far. And obviously it's like a game of statistics. At some point you're going to shoot the dice and it's going to roll what you want. It's going to go your way. So, obviously I think this might be the best year to beat a Nick Saban team. I think Georgia, obviously as it stands right now, this is just what I'm saying on paper right now. I think Georgia could beat an Alabama team, but you have to factor in the entire season and injuries. And there's so much outlying factors that could contribute to, the success or the demise of a season for any team. Obviously Georgia's been plagued with a few injuries in regards to key names that are probably not going to be playing Saturday. Specifically, I want to talk about Darnell Washington. As you being a receiver, understanding that losing a receiver, what does that do if, from a fan's perspective, losing a receiver at being one yourself, having a guy go down, what does that do for you from a mentality standpoint? Does it make you kind of strive to do better, or do you kind of feel the pull of the injury or things like that? What goes on in your head?
Well, it's next man up, and so for me, my sophomore year, we had a guy that started in front of me at the H-back position. His name was Jerry German. An amazing receiver. He goes down, ironically, in the Clemson game. And once I got an opportunity to go in there, was next man up. I fulfilled my responsibilities, and I never lost a starting job after I had that opportunity. So as a receiver, you never want to see any of your comrades go down, but then it's you're the next man up. So you need to take this opportunity to excel and go above and beyond. And I wanted to quickly just kind of give a shout out to Jalen Johnson, who just received a scholarship as a receiver. So that's kind of cool for him to have, put in that hard work. And who knows, he may be a difference maker in this game, especially with some of our receivers being down.
One of the things that I don't think people really I don't want to discredit anybody's knowledge or anything, but it really goes unnoticed. The hard work and really the dedication and sacrifice that a walk-on has to make, right? There's been these good, heartwarming stories you see all the time, but you wonder what the genuine emotion is, right? A kid that's paying his way to go to play at Georgia, practicing is basically working his ass off, getting beat up every day. That feeling when you finally get that scholarship offer. I could only imagine the true, genuine feel of just joy, and it's probably just more than that. But that's where hard work pays off. So obviously any walk-on that gets a scholarship, they earn that. So you have to give them respect there. Now,
I had that happen too with when I was at Georgia. A guy, Matt Dixon, who was out of Northwest Whitfield. Gosh, I can't even say that out. But he, came in. He was a freshman with me, and he worked his butt off. And he had every right to be on scholarship because he was that caliber of a player. So when it was announced that he got his scholarship, just as a team, we just roared in excitement. And it's always awesome because there was nothing that I did or nothing that the other receivers on scholarship did that he did not do. There was not work that was put in that he did not put in work for. So, Matt Dixon was an awesome receiver, and just the fact that he got a scholarship was amazing.
Yeah, I know watching these videos, right? You always see them now where kids get scholarships and things like that, and it's actually kind of publicized, which is, in my opinion, is very cool to see because, at first you wonder if the team is really being genuine, but then you understand the minute details behind that, right? What goes on, what has to happen. The hard work, things like that. And then you really understand, and then it just hits you. And it's now I understand why everybody just goes crazy. So, it's a big deal for that player, but it's also a big deal for that team because, you look at a guy that's a walk-on, right? They bust their tail, right? Look back at Stetson Bennett, playing scout team and really helped Georgia. Beat Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. And it was even mentioned by our defense, some of our defensive playmakers. Him doing the scout team was what helped them prepare and really overcome and beat Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. Yeah. So it's always something, like I said, it took me a little bit to understand because I was skeptical if it was genuine. I completely understand now that it's true. And obviously, like you said, guy just got a scholarship. But I want to transition to someone that didn't get a scholarship, but they committed, and that is Jacob Hood, which is why the chain is out in full effect today. Obviously committing to Georgia Monday, 6'8", almost 350 pounds. That is a monster of a man. To kind of compare this right here, you look at let's just Mount Mims, right? Amarius Mims, 6'8", I think it is, 6'7", 6'8".
Yes.
And I want to say about 315, 320. Now, the one thing about Jacob Hood was at one point, I don't know if you're familiar with it, he was actually pushing 400 and had a ridiculous amount of weight loss to get him down to the 340 range. So I expect him, obviously I think he's going to do well. I don't know, what his future looks like at Georgia. I don't think he's going to get immediate playing time. I do think he can be a good depth piece. Whether he plays at tackle, I think his height tells me he plays tackle. Probably right tackle. He has to get a little bit more, bend and flexibility. I think him being so heavy and then cutting that weight kind of really helped him out, but it's still a work in progress there. And that's something that the Georgia strength and conditioning staff can easily do. But, I look at him right here, and he may not be the best in pass rush. I don't know if you did any analysis on Jacob's tape or anything, but the kid is an absolute mauler in the run game. Absolute mauler. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to reset the line of scrimmage. I know typically you hear that phrase from a defensive standpoint, but he can push the guys and move the line of scrimmage. And that's key because from a fan's perspective, we want an air raid offense, right? We want to pass all the time. But you have to understand that that's not always going to be the case, right? Yes. You have to look at, you have to have the ability to run the ball, reset the line of scrimmage, push the line, do what you have to do there. Georgia's never going to not turn down somebody that is an excellent pass rusher, or not pass rusher, but a pass blocker, or a run blocker, I should say. Sorry. So, what are your thoughts on the commitment? Obviously, that puts Georgia at third if you're one to keep up with the recruiting rankings. Moves us up to third. But have you looked into anything with Jacob? And what do you think his future could look like in Georgia?
Well, his future is going to be great. And just like you just talked about, I mean, it's not a matter of how much he weighs or the quickness right now, because Georgia's going to do exactly what they need to do with this guy when it comes to nutrition. They're going to get him at the weight. They're going to get him at the strength, the speed, and everything else that he's going to be at. I think he's going to be excellent. So you add him and you add in Griffin Scroggs, who's another guy that they're going to go in there, 6'5" guy that they're just going to go up there and they're going to beef him up and then, work with, footwork and quickness. And then again, almost just kind of getting Georgia back to, hey, let's run the football. Let's make sure that we run the football. And then again, you also have to understand too, these guys, whether they come in there their first year and they're on the scout team, they're going up against the best D1 players in the country, in one of the best conferences in the country. So it's almost hard for them not to develop and hard for them not to get better, especially when they see their counterparts in there, giving it their all each and every day.
I look at that as a perfect example. You mentioned Griffin Scruggs, right? A lot of people, I think they get too fascinated and caught up with rankings. And I've said this over and over on the show. Rankings don't mean much unless you're trying to sit here and antagonize a fan base, right? An opposing fan base. Obviously you have to trust what the coaches see from these players. There's a reason why they're committed, even if they're a 3-star, it doesn't matter. There's a reason why the coaches wanted them. You look at guys like, 3-stars like Jordan Davis. Everybody wants to get hyped up over 5-stars, and rightfully so to a degree. But Jordan Davis is about to be a first-round pick, All-American in my opinion. You're about to see why come Saturday. But he was a 3-star. So, obviously I'm going to keep reiterating this, especially as the season goes on, because, look, Georgia, as elite as Georgia is in the recruiting game, you're never going to sign every 5-star. You're going to sign a plethora of 4-stars, but those 3-stars could be the key difference between, a conference champion and a national champion. But you never really understand until the pieces are put together, right? Like you said, you get him into shape. Talking about Jacob Hood, you get him into shape, and next thing you know, if somebody goes down, you have a guy that's that's ready to go, smart, things like that, and you don't miss a beat. And so, obviously, again, stars don't matter, but definitely the talent and the measurables, right? These are things you can't coach. You can't coach 6'8".
No,
you can't coach Arians 4 flat, basically.
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest. You can, but you're gifted at that point.
Right.
Like you can coach speed, but you can't. You're given 4 flat speed. You just have to hone that craft.
Exactly.
So measurables, things like that. And look, and one of my favorite things, effort. If you can sit there and watch your tape and see that you're never taking a play off from a coach, I would think that's important, because you see all these kids that come in there and they're the best player on their field, any given Friday, but they kind of take plays off. You can't do that in college.
No,
especially, you may be as, compared to NFL, but looking at it right now, though, I think the level of gameplay is going to be different. You need those guys with the motors, right? I'm going to stick around local here, and I'll let you speak on somebody maybe at Buford or a couple people at Buford. I look at a guy like Tamori Thompson here at Grimsley, and the kid is 6 foot roughly, right? Kind of undersized for a D lineman, but the kid's motor is relentless, and whoever gets him, the college coach that does get him, is going to be loving it. They're going to be happy, and I'm sure you see that at Buford. Look, while we're at it, Buford just now got ranked in the top 25 nationally.
Yes.
You want to care to speak on that?
Yeah. Hey, they're top 22 in the nation. So that's kind of big time. They had a big time win against North Cobb the very first week. North Cobb then the next week goes and plays Milton, who was number 21 in the nation, and they just absolutely obliterated Milton. So that kind of helped propel us into the top 20, top 25, which is just a great feat in itself. And but you talk about guys with motors. I know a guy, Josiah Wyatt, who is a defensive end for us. He actually committed to App State, a motor out of this world. And heart out of this world, and just does not take a play off. And we've got a lot of guys that are on our offense and defense that don't take plays off. And trust me, the way that Buford runs their program, if you take a play off, everybody knows it. So it's something that the coaches try to maximize and just get the most out of you. And again, like you were just talking about for Hood, he's just one of those guys that he's just going to drive. He's just going to power through. Same thing with Griffin Scroggs at Grayson. I mean, Grayson has a machine over there, and so they expect the absolute best out of you. So you can best believe, him at right now playing center, he's not going to take any plays off because he can't afford to.
Absolutely. So I want to transition to talk more about you as a player at Georgia. But before we do that, I got to give a quick break here and talk about our guys over at La Terrain. Look, if you love watches, this is a perfect brand to invest in. They're not, luxury tag price, but it's great quality. And also we're pairing with them and look, Dawn of the Dog giveaway, your chance to win 2 tickets to a Georgia versus South Carolina game on September 18th. All you have to do is, provide a proof of purchase. Go on to laterrain.com, use code DGD at checkout. Look, it doesn't even have to be a watch. You can buy sunglasses, a watch strap, whatever the case may be. Buy something, use code DGD, get 10% off of your purchase, and you get an entry into the giveaway. You could win 2 tickets to the South Carolina game for maybe less than $20-$30. So that's very cheap. Winner will be selected September 10th. So on September 10th is when at midnight is when the entries will be stopped and done from there. But also remember, if you buy multiple things, that counts as multiple entries. So every item that you purchase counts as an entry into the giveaway. So if you buy a watch and a sunglass set, that's 2 entries into the giveaway. So keep that in mind. Like I said, use code DGD at checkout. La Terrain, that is LA-TOURAINE.com. Code DGD, and that will enter you into the giveaway. Also, social media here. We are less than 80 followers away on Twitter. If we get there before Saturday, you're looking at a $100 gift card to Fanatics or a Nick Chubb signed mini helmet, which the winner will choose whichever they want. So get us over to 1,000 followers before Saturday. Twitter at the DGD Podcast, and enter for a chance to win a Fanatics gift card or a Nick Chubb signed helmet. But with that being said, Juan, let's talk about your Georgia career. Obviously, played in the early to mid 90s as a receiver. Did a lot of good things here. I'm not going to steal your thunder, so I just want to kind of give you an opportunity for those that may not know the man, the myth, the legend, Juan Daniels. Tell us about your.
Hey, I'm showing here that you're okay.
Oh, a little bit of an internet issue. So if you didn't hear me, what I was saying is obviously you played you played Georgia football early to mid 90s. Tell people about yourself. Tell people about your Georgia career for those that may not know the man, the myth, the legend, Juan Daniels.
Yeah. So I played from 93 to 96. So I was redshirted, and played wide receiver. And I tell a lot of these kids today, especially, it took me two years to get on the field, where a lot of kids, they want to go when they want to transfer, or they come out and they have a lot of hype, because I had a lot of hype coming out of high school to go pretty much to any school in the country. And I chose Georgia. Loved the campus, loved everything about it, the coaches, the players. And so had an opportunity to get on the field. And just like I said, unfortunately, we had a guy that went down, and I was able to step in and become one of the third leading receivers on the team. So I had the third amount of touchdowns. And I was there with Hassan Graham, Bryce Hunter, Hines Ward, Corey Allen, Robert Edwards, Mike Bobo was the quarterback. We had Kirby, he was there, Will Muschamp. So a lot of these guys that have these head coaching jobs came from that football team. So we had a lot of great guys. Had guys, Philip Daniels, who went on to play for Seattle, and he's actually on the staff with Seattle when they won their couple of won the couple of Super Bowls. So my experience at Georgia, just being a dog, was just awesome. Playing in Sanford Stadium is second to none. It was just amazing. The fan base, hearing that Star Wars theme, the fourth quarter. It was just everything that you could imagine, everything that was great. So a lot of these recruits that are going in there have an opportunity to go to a game and really just kind of look up at the stadium and look up at the fans. It is everything that it is advertised. Unfortunately, we were not as good as the teams are right now, but having an opportunity, I would have loved to have had the opportunity to play under Kirby. Just to be, one of the receivers on this team, to block and catch passes and all that kind of good stuff, and then just have that success. But even though we were not as successful, the brotherhood that you have, we just had just an alumni lunch last week where Kirby spoke. And, we just had a lot, an opportunity to catch up with some of the guys, Buck Ballou and just other guys that were there. But again, like the brotherhood is amazing. And then just the friendships that you form over time is just absolutely unbelievable. So when we do have an opportunity to go to those games and you kind of link up with some of your friends, it's absolutely awesome.
Looking at it, right, I think, like I said, I did my research and found out you really had a productive career, which really kind of opened my eyes to really do some history through the books, right? Everybody looks at the golf era as kind of those down years, but, I mean, really there's a lot of good talent that came through then, too. It's just things are always, things are difficult. You look at Tennessee Tennessee was in the good years, Spurrier there, things like that. There's always something, but you look at transition into now where Georgia's running the East. Look, that's just what happens over time. You're going to get that where people just flip, and that's what's going to happen. But nonetheless, I do want to ask maybe a question or two about while you were playing at Georgia. What was your favorite memory in general? What was your favorite memory while you were at Georgia?
My favorite memory, and sadly it was in a loss, but we were playing Tennessee against Peyton Manning, and we were driving down the field. I just scored a touchdown off of a post, and I go and I sit down on the sidelines. And so the way that the sidelines are, and it's maybe not so much in high school, but in college, is the offense is on one side of the 50 and the defense is on the next side of the 50. So we had some guys. One of the guys, Jason Ferguson, who ended up going to the Jets, and another guy, Jermaine Smith, and then Keith Drayton. They had to go out there and face Peyton Manning. I mean, it was a difficult task, obviously, in itself. And so, instead of them being focused on what are we going to do to go and stop this guy, they grab the Gatorade trays and come down and start giving all of us offensive guys some Gatorade. And we've got water boys and we've got people that do that. But when you actually look at, wow, like that is a true teammate. That's true service right there. That they had that much love for their brothers, that knowing that they got to go out there and face Peyton Manning, they decide, hey, let me just go make sure that my teammates are taken care of. That is hands down my favorite moment in college football.
Yeah, it just kind of shows you, and obviously using a football term here, I don't want to go too crazy here, but sometimes it just means more. It's more than football, right? And I think that's a perfect example of that. And I think that still stays true to your post collegiate career, where you still talk to these guys, like you said, your lunch recently at the scrimmage, things like that. Like those memories will last you a lifetime, and those relationships and brotherhoods that you created, and those are lifetime things. And I think it's just a testament to what being a dog is. You know what I mean? I think that's just this family environment, bonds and relationships, things like that. It just means more than sometimes it just means more than football. So I love that you told me that, because it's easy to say a touchdown run back or something like that, which I wouldn't be mad either. Right. You hear that kind of story, and it just kind of puts it into a different perspective. Now, my second question here is, obviously watching some highlights, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So I want to see what you do here. Who was your favorite quarterback to catch passes from?
Man, I'd have to say Eric Zaire. I'd have to say Eric Zaire. I love Bobo and Hines and Brian were great guys, but Eric Zaire was just different, and so it was, anytime I ran out, on a route, I think by the end of the season, I think I was his outlet guy. So if he was in trouble, if he was scrambling around, he just kind of knew what area I was in, and he just kind of just threw the ball up, and I was there.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting to see that, though, because like watching your highlights, like you said, I literally watched it, and obviously you're making plays, but you look at the quarterback. It starts with the quarterback, and it's just like 19, 14. It's like, okay, so he's just like it's back and forth. Yeah. But that's just it. That's what it was. So obviously, I think you made the best out of everything. Regardless who was behind the center, really. But one of the things that I liked was. Can you tell me more about this? The one-handed play against Georgia Tech on that drive.
Yeah.
Because I think it was that whole drive that was just like, or maybe not the whole drive, but it was just one of those things where like that catch came out of nowhere, and I think it really helped energize the team to get us and pull away with that win. Was that in '96?
That was 95.
95. Okay.
At Georgia Tech, and so what it is, it's like a quick slant. So you just kind of have to fake out, and then you got to break back in. But I kind of got jammed up a little bit, which is the reason why I had to stick my hand out to make that grab. But we had a guy, our coach Daryl Drake, who was he's amazing. Unfortunately, he passed, but he was with the Chicago Bears as the receiver. But he just taught us, he said, sometimes you're just going to have to go above and beyond. You're going to have to be an acrobat. You're going to have to be a contortionist. You're going to have to do whatever you can to make that catch. You're going to have to make yourself uncomfortable. And so with him just kind of drilling that in our heads, it may have looked difficult, but it really was not that. It really was not that tough. But I just had to reach out there and snag that thing and bring it in. Left-handed.
Well, yeah, I was going to say left-handed too. That was what looked crazy about it, because obviously my guys over at My God Podcast, they are GIF masters, right? Yes. And they made obviously when we made the announcement that you were going to be on full time this season, they had to make the touchdown, right? The touchdown GIF.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm sitting there and I got the actual audio, and then you hear Munson. It's like, Juan Daniels touchdown. I'm like, oh my goodness, that was amazing to see. So shout out to the guys at My God Podcast, man. They're always making good gifts. But
yes.
Yeah. So I want to do this real fast. Obviously, talk a little bit about tomorrow. Obviously, the dawn of the dog is approaching, guys. We're literally as of tomorrow. It'll be Friday, one day away. I'm going to go ahead and break the news here. We're going to have a 2-on-2 debate. Well, I guess you could say more of an analysis kind of discussion, like a roundtable. I've got my guy Aaron from Fifth Quarter Clemson coming on, and Juan, I think you set something up to bring a former Clemson player on.
Yeah. His name is Brad Pope. So Brad Pope was a player at Clemson. We actually played against each other in 94 and 95. So what's unique about Brad is his son he plays for Buford. He plays with my son, and he just committed to Alabama. So to have him on is going to be pretty cool.
I expect it to be fun. a little bit of, nudging here and there. Look at Georgia Clemson. It's always a rivalry anyway. You've lived it. I've watched it, right? And I'm sure Aaron is the same way with me. We've watched it. Y'all have played it. So, obviously we're going to wrap this up for today. But look, tell people, obviously you're going to be a staple here for this season. But if, like I said, since this is your first time here, tell people where they can follow you and find you.
Okay, so I'm at John Mega 12 on Twitter. Facebook is just my name, Juan Daniels. You can look me up. It's a picture of my wife and I. We're walking down the aisle, and it's got the Stanford logo on there too. So my middle son is going to Stanford for football, and then on Instagram it is John Mega 14.
Gotcha. All right, guys, that's all we've got for today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, obviously on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. But that's going to wrap us up for this episode of the DGD Podcast. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
It's the DGD Podcast. Go Dogs.
All right, for all the YouTube watchers, quick Q&A for Mr. Juan Daniels himself. Juan, I don't know if you're able to see this, but I'm going to post up video or questions that our commenters have provided throughout the video or the recording so far. So we've got Bank 6. Bank 6 asks, Juan, what's your favorite moment or favorite play while playing at Georgia?
Man, my favorite moment was probably when it was in '96, and we went down on our final drive to end up beating Texas Tech. So I ended up catching 3 passes. So one of them was a third down pass. One of them was like 4th and 15. And then I ended up catching the game-winning touchdown pass. And then that's the one where we went for 2, and that's where you see Hines Ward getting the little flea flicker, and then he just goes and flips over the top. So that was probably my favorite moment, favorite play.
It makes sense to me. Also, Banks, he also asked, which receiver, tight end, or running back are you most curious to see play versus Clemson, and or how Monken uses him?
I honestly, it's probably going to be Cook. I think Cook is honestly going to be the game changer. I'd love to see him put Cook out in the slot. Motion him out to the slot. That way he's going to have a linebacker or somebody on there run maybe like a couple of option routes, and just to see what he's going to be able to do with him. And then obviously Arian, I mean, gosh, I'd run hitches all day with him until they stop it. He's so fast that they're going to have to get out of there. I'd be interested to see how they utilize him.
I'll look at it. I can see your point there, because I think Clemson, and we might talk about this a little bit more tomorrow in depth, but I think Clemson does have a vulnerability in coverage, and how they utilize the running back specifically, could be a deciding factor in the Georgia winning the game, perhaps, because if you can get your linebackers from Clemson confused or in a bad situation, I think that's their vulnerability, by the way. But you sit there and you put Cook out there, and you saw what happened against Alabama, right? Alabama was a perfect example. Line him up and just flat out run past somebody and then hit his head on the goalpost. So you look at that right there, and looking at getting him into space and open, I think it'll be beneficial. You saw what he did against Missouri on the angle route. So utilizing it and Monken getting him into space is going to be crucial for our running backs. It's more so than anything, but I could also see them getting some touches out of the backfield in regards to, maybe some bubble routes or some small routes right there, kind of extend the run game, kind of whether it be a screen or wide receiver screen to kind of extend the running game. But, my opinion, I want to see Brock Bowers, right? Because everybody's looking at Darnell as being this key piece, which, he kind of is. But a lot of people don't really understand that Brock has got basically what Darnell doesn't. They complement each other. They fit each other perfect, like a couple puzzle pieces. Darnell's size compared to the speed and route running that Brock has, and I think especially putting him, if you run him through the middle, maybe into the seam, right? I think he could be I think he could be a nightmare. Obviously 6'8" is going to be a nightmare too, but I do think that Brock Bowers could have a big game, especially if we're able to utilize the tight ends and really help JT out there.
Right. And I see that.
I think that's my person too.
Said the same thing, Bank Six. And I think that you and I talked about on our previous podcast on how those tight ends from Ohio State just completely just destroyed Brent Venables, and that he really, really struggled with that. So, Bank Six, you're absolutely right. I think that the tight ends against that scheme is just going to be pretty tough.
I'm with you. I think we saw what happened to Ohio State. Ohio State, like, you caught them off guard with some tempo, and it just created just pure chaos. Pure chaos. Yeah. All right. Next question. I think this is a good one here. Which team that you didn't get to play against would you have liked to play against while you
LSU.
were in LSU? Ooh.
LSU. I would have loved to have played against LSU at LSU. I heard that stadium is crazy. It's absolutely insane. But that's the one that I did not get the opportunity to play against. That would have been awesome.
Thinking about it, right? LSU, Tiger Stadium has got to be, in my opinion, I think there almost is no debate. I mean, you definitely have a couple. I think you look at Tiger Stadium and Happy Valley. You can say Clemson, Memorial Stadium. I look at Blacksburg as being another place, a hard place to play. People look at Kyle Field as well. You look at those stadiums right there, but the environment of the fan base is just insane.
Yes.
From LSU. And just watching it on TV, right? I've never been to Baton Rouge. I've talked to guys that have. It's a different world out there, especially under the lights.
Under the lights. A night
LSU
game,
is notorious for night games.
Absolutely insane.
Oh, man. See, I know we talked about this right here. Obviously, going to the South Carolina game, I'm looking forward to that night game because I've never been to a night game at Sanford, really never been to Sanford in general yet. So this will be my first time I had to make it a night game. And I know you told me that just Sanford Stadium alone is a completely different world. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm also I have a question for you. It's not even in the comments right here. If you could go back in time, now obviously this is hypothetical, but if you could place yourself with any team, any year, any team, Georgia team, what would it be and why?
Man, it would probably be with one of those Matt Stafford teams. And the year that they should have won, they ended up playing Hawaii.
Oh, wait.
To get a heat-seeking pass from him would have been just a dream come true. He was my guy. He was an absolute gunslinger. You got Noshawn Marino. You got that whole group. Man, that would have been top notch.
Oh my God! I was sitting here in my head. I was thinking that question, and you probably saw my reaction. If anybody did, feel free to laugh at me. But it was basically, I was sitting there and I was just thinking, I was like, I hope he says a Matt Stafford team. I hope he does, especially the 08 team. Looking back, 08 team is what really set me in. So you had Stafford. Stafford. Stafford has the best arm of any quarterback I've seen in Georgia history.
Hands down.
You add that right there, and then you Noshawn's electricity, right? Like there's been, I'm not knocking Noshawn. He's one of the reasons that got me to be a Dog fan anyway. But he may not have been the best statistically, but by God, from an energy standpoint, there ain't nothing that man could do that sit there and get you hyped up. But then obviously looking at receiver core, your expertise here, you had AJ Green, underrated, Muhammad Massaquoi. I feel like he went under the radar so much. And it was just a good team overall. And obviously getting some comments in here. Bank 6.
Hey, I think your audio went out.
Sorry, guys.
There you go.
No, sorry. So, obviously, going back to the 2008 team, I think is what you mentioned. Look, I was excited to see that. I think, looking at it right there, I was in my head. I was so excited when you said Matt Stafford team. Going to, what Bank 6 here is saying, 2017 team. because you would be one-on-one coverage all day with the running backs that we had, the run game we had with Chubb and Michelle. Sure, you would have loved to be alongside those guys as well. Also threw in 2012. But look, I was so glad you threw out 2008. I was just sitting here picturing in my head when you were sitting there, and I had the question, and that's where I was like, I hope he says it. I hope he says it. So now that you said it, like I said, you have Muhammad Massaquoi, which is very underrated. That 2018 he was so underrated. It really was a good receiver, great receiver. I loved him. But obviously you had AJ Green, and Noshawn brought the energy. It's just insane. That team was just insane. So you saying the Matt Stafford team, I lost it. Yes, I completely lost it. Yes, no, so let's see. Maybe let's do this. I know we'll give it maybe a couple more minutes here. So if you want to do something, maybe do a question at Q&A with either the audience or myself. Let's see what happens here. Coley was okay. Jay says Coley was a disaster. I think Coley was basically a what's the word for it? Basically a bridge. I think I hate to say that, but I think he was a bridge to get over to where we needed to be. A scapegoat for that, but that's a long story for another episode.
All right, but I like Bank 6 where he's like, I'd love to see Georgia in like a Penn State whiteout. Man, that would be, when I tell you, that would just be out of control rocking. That would be absolutely awesome.
Well, Penn State's got their stadium's over 100,000, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, because Auburn goes up there week 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, I think Auburn's going to get home. I mean, Penn State I think is going to have a bounce back year, but that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
See, but Georgia would make it to where it wouldn't be true whiteout though. Like you saw what happened in 2017 with Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, if we take Notre Dame and run it, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of white, but like you wherever Georgia plays, you're going to see red. There's no question.
You're going to see red. That's going to be different. But that would be, I tell you, especially if they did that for that South Carolina game, that night game that you're going to, man, that would be top notch.
Yeah, I was worried. Honestly, kind of like a personal decision here to do that over the UAB game. I really don't think that. I think the UAB game is going to be a better game than the South Carolina game, but it's a night game, so you kind of need to go to a night game, and it's cooler, more comfortable, things like that. I would suppose. Yeah, look, I've been down to Georgia. I haven't been to Athens, but I've been into Georgia, and I know what that Georgia heat's like. I don't miss it. I don't miss that one bit. So obviously, if I'm going to sit out, if I'm going to sit in some stands, in some metal bleachers for 3 hours, I want to try to be as comfortable as I can.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right.
So I know you said you have to run. Look, thanks for taking your time here. Obviously, can't wait for tomorrow when you hop on.
Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow, like where we really just dig into it, and we'll have some great discussions. These guys are awesome. We're awesome. Bank 6 and Jay Shipes, man. Looking forward to hopefully you guys can jump on tomorrow and bring some friends, and and we'll have some pretty cool guests on there. So I
absolutely. I'm looking forward to the season. There's going to be so much to talk about, right? And that's talking to everybody here. There's going to be so much to talk about. Look, having an interactive audience is what we got right here. Only makes this show that much better. So make sure you tell your folks, tell your friends, hop in here. We'll obviously you can sit here, listen to us. We'll interact and things like that. Stick around for the Q&As post show. This is going to be every episode thing. I think it's something that, as long as the audience is interactive, it makes it worthwhile to do. But on that note, though, guys, we're going to end the show and go Dogs again.
Go Dogs.